How many of y'all remember? How many of y'all know? Matter of fact, how many of y'all believe? You see, for my entire life, my feet had been planted in the topsoil in Atlanta, Georgia, the heart, soul, and capital of the Peach State, where every meal is best served with the sweet tea of a Coke, where there's a Waffle House on almost every corner, and where football is almost a religion. Sports as a whole run deep here, with millions all over the metro showing that passion, from Bankhead to Buckhead, from Stone Mountain to Kennesaw Mountain, from Marietta to Alpharetta. But I remember when this entire place was painted blue. I remember when those birds took flight. I remember the sights, the sounds. I even remember before the flame died out. Or so they thought. The passion never fizzled out. The belief never ended. I'm a believer that what was once taken from you wrongfully.
When you hear Atlanta's coming back.
But we are one step closer to the National Hockey League returning to Metro Atlanta.
Why Atlanta again?
The Atlanta of the last two incarnations isn't the same Atlanta.
Will be rightfully restored. And any naysayer against you and your homeland will be silenced in due time. And when it comes to time, there's no better time than now to believe in Blueland. Oh boy, y'all in for a treat today, courtesy of this young man. This is the Live from Blueland podcast.
It's about time. It is about time. Honestly, it's overdue. It is overdue. But you are here, and I want to thank you for being here, because this is the Live from Blueland podcast with your boy, Blueland Heiress, known as Government Heiress Brown, which many of you may have known me as before this, but Blueland Heiress on this day. I know you see me rocking the jersey, and this is a historic day. For hockey podcast, I'm not trying to flex on y'all, okay? This isn't the Bar Down podcast. I mess with them. This isn't 32 Thoughts, okay? This isn't Spittin' Chicklets. But I'm a new player in the game, and I'm excited about that. But what I will say is it's beyond historic, because what it also is, this is my very first podcast, baby. This is my very first podcast. It's not the Joe Rogan Experience yet, but we will get there. We will get there. Joe, I'm coming for your spot. If you're tuning in today, I don't care where you're listening to this. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you can't see me right now and you're just listening to this, I want to thank you for tuning in, because you could have been doing anything, and maybe you are doing anything, and this is playing in the background. Hopefully this is good background noise for you. But we got a lot of topics that we're going to talk about today, and in many episodes to come, for episodes down the line, weeks down the line, months down the line, years down the line. I'm in this for the long run. That will not just be, background conversations. They very much will be in the foreground. So, welcome to the Live from Blueland podcast. I hope y'all like that intro as well. And while we're on the topic of intros, I got to give an intro, not only just to this podcast, which really I've done now, but an intro to me. I know y'all see me. Many of you probably have discovered me probably through TikTok, especially. I know some of my stuff has a little bit on Twitter. On Instagram, not a ton, but so if you probably see me from TikTok. And if you're tuning in from this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, I'm glad you get a chance to listen to me. Tune in on socials. It is Blueland Heiress on there, ERRIS, as you see it on this podcast cover. But I got to give an introduction to me. Because I feel like a lot of people see me talk about hockey. They're very engaged. Y'all apparently love my energy. You've stuck around. But many people don't know who Heiress is, who Heiress Brown is, because I'm not Blueland Heiress all the time. I'm not even Blueland Heiress. I don't even know 10, 20% of the day. I love this sport, but probably not 10, 20% of my life. I'm a man that wears many hats. So let's get into the introduction of who I am, so we can get a little bit more personal than the TikToks and the content creator stuff that y'all see from me when it comes to the hockey space. The man before you right now, whether you're listening or you're watching, is Heiress Brown. I'm 24 years old, Atlanta native. I'm an ATL boy. Don't get it mistaken. I'm from the A-Town. Born and raised, and I've been all over the metro area. I know some people be like, oh, we don't mess with them over there out in the suburbs. Some people in the city, oh, we don't mess with them over there, in the city. But when I tell you that I've been all over this place, I mean that I have been all over this place. I mean, I'm talking from Bankhead to Buckhead. I'm talking from Stone Mountain to Kennesaw Mountain. I'm talking from Marietta to Alpharetta. I'm talking from Gico to Clayco. The ATL is my home. My area code has always been 404. Born and raised. Last year, I graduated from Kennesaw State University. Journalism and emerging media major. College-educated man in the building. So just more Metro Atlanta type beat because I did stay local. So and grew up loving the game of hockey. When you grow up in Atlanta, some people will call this a terrible sports market, and then their nose grows like Pinocchio because they told a lie. But when you grow up in Atlanta, boy, we love some sports down here. So love the Braves growing up. Love the Hawks. You can call me a fake Atlantean. I did not love the Falcons. I'm going to be completely honest with y'all. I did not. I did like the Falcons early on. I was a big Michael Vick fan. Early on, who wasn't though? Who wasn't? But my favorite player growing up was Ray Lewis, and as a result, I got into the Ravens rabbit hole. And I'm with a different bird. I'm sorry if you didn't want to hear that, but it's the way it is. But I do root for the Falcons' success, and I hope that y'all's suffering ends. I love United. I know they're the baby of the city, but boy, this is a soccer city as well, and we all know it. But I split time growing up in Phillips Arena with the Hawks. And another bird that took nest in that building, and it was the Thrashers. A lot of my youth was a little bit more casual, being a fan of hockey, but I loved it. I loved the speed. I loved the skill. It was a very unorthodox sport, but to me, I just thought it was absolutely epic. And if you're in Atlanta and you recognize these colors, if you can't see me, I'm flexing the jersey. You can imagine that I've got it on. Boy, I love the Thrashers growing up. So even despite the vomit-inducing level of performance that we got pretty much every year of my existence while they were here, but I love the Thrashers growing up. I started skating at 13, which was actually after the unfortunate relocation of the Atlanta Thrashers, and that was actually when I started getting into the sport, like really, where I was like, wow, I grew up playing hoops. I was playing basketball. That didn't go well. I wasn't very good. I only got good at basketball after I stopped playing, sure enough. And I started skating. I told my parents that I really wanted to get into hockey. They were completely shocked by that, but they were all in support of that. Started skating. Played house league starting at 14, and then I played travel the rest of my years in USA Hockey and single A, double A with the programs, the Atlanta Phoenix, who were formerly the Atlanta Junior Thrashers, got to wear those colors a number of times, and the Atlanta Fire up in the cooler. So when it comes to youth hockey, I'm a youth hockey boy here. I got training all over the country. We were in some AAA merger tournaments, played in the CCM World Invite. Shout out to one of my favorite goalie coaches of all time that instilled a whole lot of confidence in me, because you got a goaltender before you. I'm a little crazy, but you got a goaltender before you. Shout out to Mitch Korn, won a number of awards at his goaltending camps. Coach Al Blevins privately trained me for a number of years. Shane Clifford up there in Pittsburgh, Stauber's Gold Crease in Minnesota. I was all over the place because I love this game. And I'm a product of what hockey looks like when you grow the game in Atlanta and you get somebody who go crazy about the sport and is passionate about me. And if you think I'm the only one, you are a fool. You are a straight up fool. Or maybe you're just uneducated. And, this podcast will get into a little bit of helping you get educated. And my love for hockey growing up and playing it all over the country. And I can get into more details about that with y'all, in future episodes. But this will be a 25 to 30 minute episode. That's what I'm trying to keep it to. Okay, so, y'all will get longer episodes down the line, but we are going to keep them in the Family Guy, SpongeBob episode, range here, at least starting out. So, so playing hockey around the country, and, I can't snap with my left hand. I had to learn quickly. My dad used to drop me off to the rink at the Duluth Ice Forum or the Cooler or the Ice or an assortment of places. And I would skate because I wanted to play travel quickly. My dad would drop me off at sometimes like 8 a.m, and I would do public skate hours I'm not even joking with y'all, until the last one at 10 o'clock. Like everybody around the rink started knowing me because I just didn't leave. When I left, I was walking across the street to just go to McDonald's to get something to eat. Not the healthiest choice. Honestly, Subway more than McDonald's, but just to get something to eat and come back. So, and I mean, I would be skating for 10 plus hours a day. I'm not even playing with y'all. Like, I would be at every single public skate hour that they had and honing my craft so that I could play travel really quickly. But my passion for hockey growing up in youth hockey led me to now a young man starting the Blueland Airs brand, the platform, whatever y'all want to call it, because I really wanted to showcase what a hockey fan in Atlanta looks like, and what a hockey fan in Atlanta looks like when he has the platform and gets to speak about the sport abroad, because it's not all about us, especially considering, I don't know if y'all have noticed, but we don't have a team at the moment. So, it's clearly not all about us, but I want to showcase that. And then there's been a number of things that have transpired when it comes to the city of Atlanta and it comes to the sport of hockey, more specifically when it comes at the apex, at the top tier level of professional hockey. There's been a lot of discussions around the NHL in the city of Atlanta. Again? Oh man, I can hear, is that Quebec City in the background? Don't be offended. If you're listening from Quebec City, relax. I like the Nordiques. I wasn't around when they were around. I did not get to see the Nordiques at any point in my life. But I support hockey in Quebec City. I know some people in Halifax and Hamilton, Saskatoon, they're going to be pissed when they hear that. But you must be unfamiliar with my content. If you thought that, and that's another thing I want to say about this podcast, and if I go all over the place, episode 1, we're working out the kinks, buddy. If you thought this was a podcast where I was going to get up here and for lack of better vernacular, pull down my pants and take a dump over the city of Atlanta and the hockey culture here and the passion down here, this is not the podcast for you. 32 Thoughts. Actually, they don't do that either. I'm not saying that they do this. I'm saying I want to give a couple that I like. The Bar Down podcast. Just listen to Ryan Whitney on Just Spittin' Chicklets if you want to see somebody take a dump on Atlanta. I was born and raised here. I ain't doing that. And I want to make that very clear right now. But if you thought this was also a hockey podcast where I was just going to be talking about the city of Atlanta and my dying love for the Thrashers and we deserve a team and what's going on for us to get an expansion team, you would be sadly mistaken as well. We have 32 teams right now. A couple years ago, that would have been far-fetched. A couple years ago, that would have been far-fetched. We have as many teams as the NFL? There's no way. We have 32 teams to worry about right now. We got to chase for the Hart Trophy. We got the Art Ross, the Rocket Richard, the chase for the Cup. There's a lot of things going on in the NHL right now. In the world of hockey, the PWHL jumping. Next year, the variation, I guess, of the World Cup of Hockey jumping. NHL's returning to the Olympics in 2026 jumping. We got a lot of hockey topics to talk about right now. This is not exclusively. It is live from Blueland. It is not all about Blueland. I want to make that very clear. I articulated that well. I like that. I'm on fire right now. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I like that. Y'all hear me in this mic? So I do want to make that very clear. But it was very important. So I started my Blueland Airs account on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube simultaneously. YouTube and Instagram. I will be more consistent on those platforms. However, TikTok has shown me the most love. I had a 30,000+ view video. My second post, I'm pretty sure, on TikTok. TikTok has shown me the most love. I'm going to prioritize where my content is being pushed the most. I have to. And let me go ahead and pull my phone up too, because I do have a number of things that I want to talk about today. And I want to keep track of kind of like time restraints and stuff like that, and just making sure that I articulate everything that I want to talk about. But I started the Blueland Airs account. Like my birthday is October 17th. You don't have to put that in your calendar, but I started either right after my birthday, I'm pretty sure. I started in like early November, I want to say. But it's been 4 months that I started Blueland Airs. And it was in preparation for the future of hockey in Atlanta, which let me tell you something. It's sun level bright, the future of hockey in this city. And then I was also doing it in response to a lot of, and I'm not necessarily sure they're rumors anymore. There are confirmations as per Gary Bettman, a number of credible sources, ESPN, Bleacher Report, like wherever you get your hockey news, you've heard it by now. The NHL, and a topic that a lot of hockey fans are divided on, and a lot of hockey fans hate, and a lot of people that maybe don't even watch hockey but have heard about it, don't follow hockey but have heard about it, they think maybe it's a little outlandish and it's ambitious. But the topic's expansion, baby. You're hearing it all over in sports. The NBA with Seattle and Vegas and Mexico City. The MLB, a return to Montreal. Nashville, Charlotte, Vegas. Oh, that's relocation. But, Salt Lake City, another city I guess I got to talk about today. What's some other MLS? San Diego, I think, gets the next MLS team. Eventually, they will go to Vegas themselves. Expansion is the thing across all the sports. They're bigger than they've ever been in terms of reaching a global audience and a broader audience than they've ever had the reach to do. When it comes to the Big Five in this country, and you got to say the Big Five because the MLS is there. Lionel Messi, arguably the biggest athlete on this planet, plays in the MLS. There's a $1 billion MLS franchise. I'm here in Atlanta where we have Atlanta United, which is almost $1 billion franchise if they're not yet. LA Galaxy, Inter Miami, that's a major sport, buddy. They got enough now to call it that. That's a major league. So clearly it's a major sport. But I did that in response to a lot of the discussions with expansion going on, where people have seen Houston put their name in the hat. They've had a $30 million, I think, ongoing renovation of the Toyota Center in preparation for an expansion team to Houston, something that should have been done in like the 90s. But hey, come on now. One of the biggest markets in the country. I think the biggest market in the country. Absolutely the biggest market in the country, just in front of us, without an NHL team. It's egregious that it's been this long. Salt Lake City, Ryan Smith, the owner of the Jazz, he's got a team put together. They formally reached out to the NHL, which I've covered on my TikTok. They ready to kick off the expansion process. They got the Winter Olympics coming up. They think they're a great hockey market and they can do it. All right, come on now. People, Gary Bettman has talked about Quebec City, recently thrown in Kansas City and Cincinnati. Omaha, Nebraska, baby. Come on now. I would love to see them get pro sports, but you in here fighting with some big dogs. They would be regardless. It is Omaha. But one that seems to piss everybody off is the city of Atlanta, a city that has lost 2 NHL franchises, which is interesting to me because then it creates the dialogue that Atlanta, it can never be a hockey market. Atlanta is a failure of a hockey city. And I'm always disgusted by that. And we've seen people like NHL to Atlanta. If you're watching this, shout out to NHL to Atlanta. An assortment of people. Paul Bissonnette has talked about it. Anson Carter has talked about it. Wayne Gretzky has talked about it. That it can work in this city. And there's been a lot of discussion and there is a lot of rhetoric, and it is false. Do not listen to these people who have never even flown south of Pennsylvania. I am an Atlanta native, born and raised. This is the real narrative of what has happened in this city. This is not a city that rejected the sport of hockey, is disgusted by the sport of hockey, doesn't want the NHL in this city. This is a city that has been screwed over when it comes to opportunities in the NHL, and on an island has been screwed over where there is no relatability. And somebody got to put a stop to that. Somebody's got to say something. And I have the platform to say something. And I don't care about rubbing people the wrong way, because this is not the Live from Everywhere podcast. This is not the Live from, and I'm just going to be honest, I welcome my Canadian viewers, and there is a level of respect that you have to have when you talk about hockey in Canada. My mouth getting dry. I got some Aquafina here. Not sponsored yet. But if anybody wants to sponsor me, bluelandairus@gmail.com, airusbrown@gmail.com. I'll get back to you in a very timely manner. Or you can DM me on Instagram, TikTok. Page me. Fax me. All right. But yeah, when you're talking about hockey in the nation of Canada. There is a level of respect you have to have when you're talking about the nation that birthed the game. There is a level of respect that you have to have. But you can have a level of respect. You can have a level of respect and not take disrespect. This is the Live from Blueland podcast. This is not the Live from Quebec City podcast. This is not the Live from Halifax podcast. This is not the Live from Hamilton podcast. And a lot of the narratives that y'all have taken and run with and become comfortable with, they will stop today. I've already been putting a stop to them, but they will stop now, and they will stop going forward. And if you are one of those people that says, oh, hockey doesn't work down there, they don't deserve a team, they've already failed twice, they are the worst hockey fans on the continent, in the world, it would behoove you to dislodge your foot from your mouth before I and the city of Atlanta really make a fool out of you, and before the NHL makes a fool out of you. When it comes to hockey in this city, I know exactly how it is. The Atlanta Thrashers got here just a little bit before I was born, but I grew up with the Thrashers, and we're talking about an organization that, although the brand was embraced by this city and celebrated, the Atlanta Thrashers were easily, they did, by win percentage, had the worst win percentage of all NHL teams throughout the 2000s, the only full decade in which they played in. The Atlanta Thrashers, in 12 seasons, had 6 seasons where they were a bottom 5 team in the sport. Out of those 12 seasons, 8 of those seasons, they were bottom 10. That leaves 4 seasons where you were not in the last third or the last 5 teams in the league. That is egregious. In addition to that, they had 1 playoff appearance in 12 years, and I really want to illustrate this. A child goes from the first grade through their senior year of high school and gets ready to leave the nest and go to college in that same time frame. And a child can go from first grade. There were children in this city that went from first grade and went to college when the Thrashers relocated and only saw 1 postseason appearance. That is disgusting. And when it comes to that, I hear the argument from people that say, oh, well, you can't only go to games when the team is being successful. Well, let me tell you something. The 2000s experienced a recession. And I don't care what you say, and Wayne Gretzky has talked about this before. Expansion rules have changed where you can see even then, it's not even about them winning the cup in the first 6 years, because they were not handed a cup, contrary to people's belief. You can look it up. The Vegas Golden Knights in their inaugural season, in which they went to the Stanley Cup, and of course they came up short to the Washington Capitals, but they were tied for dead last in Stanley Cup odds. They were not handed a team. No one thought that team was even going to the playoffs. So check your memory, because that is like some of the lies that I hear from hockey fans, and especially Northern hockey fans when they're throwing a temper tantrum and don't get their way, is asinine, ass 10, ass 11. And expansion rules have changed that have allowed the Kraken to be a postseason team last year, maybe a postseason team this year. We'll see how they make a run down the stretch. But for the Atlanta Thrashers, and I'm just going to be completely honest, they were handed, I would argue, less than an AHL team. Now, the manner in which the Thrashers handled like the entry draft and drafted players, didn't exactly help their case either. Some of the worst draft history outside of Ilya Kovalchuk in history. But when it comes to the expansion draft, the Thrashers were not given the same luxury as some of the newer teams in the league today, or even some of the teams that they came in with, and certainly not the same level of patience from the league. While you, of course, I do to a degree believe you cannot only attend sports games when the team is good and then dip when they are bad. If this is an attendance issue, let me tell you something. If it was, okay, the team with the worst attendance in the league needs to be relocated. But if you think the Thrashers should have gone first, they shouldn't have gone first, second, or third in that department. In addition to that, in 2004, the Atlanta Thrashers, who were originally purchased by Ted Turner, I believed, who owned pretty much every single thing in this city. It was God, and then a half step below God was Ted Turner. He owned everything in the city of Atlanta. They were sold in 2004 to a ownership group that sent the Thrashers, basically burned down the Thrashers organization. And that was the Atlanta Spirit ownership group, who, while acquiring the Atlanta Thrashers, acquired another franchise. It was a joint selling. They acquired another bird in the city, and it was the Atlanta Hawks, who for 70 years have not done anything. I love the Hawks. Trae Young is my favorite player. All-star, he in the three-point shootout tonight as I'm recording this, all-star game tomorrow night. He will get a statue in this city. he is loved in this city. But the Hawks for 70 years, Dominique Wilkins, icon. There's been a number of great moments, but for 70 years have done nothing in this city. But Atlanta Spirit ownership group acquired both the Atlanta Hawks and the Atlanta Thrashers in 2004 and allocated all their funds to one of those franchises. And it's the one that still plays here. Some of you who don't live in Atlanta don't know that aspect of that, or you just don't care. And it's unfortunate that you don't care, because it neglected the Thrashers to a degree where they were never able to get what they needed as a franchise to thrive in this city, and it led to their demise. And a lot of that is on the NHL, who now has learned from the Atlanta Thrashers relocation that they need to do a better job of vetting owners, but it came at this city's expense. When it comes to attendance struggles, I'm not going to sit up here and lie to you. These birds did not have stellar attendance. Did they have a stellar record either? No. And that's why I brought that up, is because when you don't perform on the ice, in the NFL, in baseball, on the field, on soccer, on the pitch, in basketball, on the court, you should expect attendance declines. If we see it all the times with big corporations. You see why Disney is bombing at the box office is because your output and the level of production and the level of quality that you're presenting to your consumer base is not good enough. People will turn away. Life is too expensive. And when it comes to professional sports, I don't care what y'all say. People have to pay tickets to the game, often for themselves. And if you got a girlfriend, a wife, if you got a family you're taking to the game, those expenses add up. I haven't gotten into the concessions. I haven't gotten into the merchandise. I haven't gotten into the parking and transportation. These are entire outings. In addition to that, people are full-time students. People have romantic partnerships. They have families that they attend to. They have friendships. They have extracurricular hobbies and things that they do. People live lives outside of the teams that they support. It is hard to go support a team financially and take time out of your day and time out of your week to go support a team that's going to lose 5-1 every single night. I love the Thrashers. The Thrashers were abysmal. They were easily the worst sports franchise in terms of their output season after season in all of the Big Four throughout the 2000s. There was not one worse franchise in sports. And that's the way it was. And yet, even still, when it comes to attendance, I've documented this. If it came to attendance, the Thrashers wouldn't have been the first ones to get up and leave. And that's where my issues come with, is because it's more so we will look past ownership. We will look past the team's performance and how it would have been tough in a decade that saw a recession for people to still make their way out to the game to see the worst team in the NHL pretty much year after year. It is, blame the fans. Blame the market. When you don't hear that from the MLB, you don't hear that from the NFL, you don't hear that from the NBA, you don't hear that from the MLS, where Atlanta United leads in attendance, and it's not particularly close. Buddy, we host the WNBA in this city and do fine. Pro lacrosse. Women's volleyball recently. Shout out to the Vibe. If you believe that hockey is a major sport and the one market that it can't succeed in is the NHL, don't degrade your favorite sport by saying that. This is not on the fans of Atlanta as to why it did not work here. When it comes to attendance issue, as I've documented, there was a number of years when If you're a fan of an NHL team, that maybe even your team finished behind us in attendance. I'm even looking at a graphic. I've got it pulled up right here. Boston, what were y'all doing? I'll put the graphic on the screen. Bruins fans, y'all are a true hockey market. What were y'all doing? This podcast is going to go over 30 minutes, by the way. Great job by me. New Jersey, what were y'all doing? The Capitals fans. Chicago and St. Louis, to the Blues and Blackhawks fans. So if it was an attendance issue, the Buffalo Sabres attendance struggles over the last decade. That is a true hockey market there in Buffalo, with not nearly as many competitors. It's the Bills. Name me another one. Sabres and Bills. They've got a monopoly on that, duopoly on that market. And the Sabres attendance struggles over really the same prolonged lack of playoff success and appearances as the Thrashers. You've never seen anybody call for their move, and the NHL sure didn't move them overnight anywhere. The Jets currently. The former Southern Birds right here. That was Blueland right there. Look at the Winnipeg Jets. 13,000 a night right now, and that's actually up from what it was. Obviously, the Coyotes play in Mullet Arena, but when we exclude them, the Jets had the worst attendance in the league for a team that has been stellar all season long. And that was where we were moved to. And I think Winnipeg is a great hockey market. But y'all don't see nothing wrong with that? Obviously, I know everybody in Atlanta is going to want me to talk about the Coyotes. I don't support relocation of teams. If you thought I do, I don't. Because it happened to me. And I don't think that relocation is the option in sports. I think it's outdated. I think if you have a metro area with at least 1 million people, 1.1, 1.2 million people, you're fine. But you got to put a good product out or people are not going to watch that. Same way people will turn away from movie theaters when a movie production studio is putting out garbage. People will stop going to a restaurant when the food quality dips. You don't get to have the worst team in the league every year and miss the playoffs for a chunk of people's existence on this earth and think people are going to pack your building. It's too much of a time commitment and life is too expensive. Do you see what inflation looks like on this continent? No, sir. You don't get to do that. People even pay their tax-paying dollars to build stadiums and arenas for these teams to take up space and suck. No, I'm not coming out to the game. You've been bad for a decade. I'll come when you've been bad for years. But a decade? Do you know what can happen in a decade? Multiple presidential terms. A child can go from the age of 8 to 18 and off to college. You know how many things can change in 10 years? I'm recording this on an iPhone 13 Pro Max. This looked like a brick 10 years ago. Like, I try to understand it, but the lack of patience that the NHL had with Atlanta, the horrid ownership, it screwed over this city. You look at other southern markets, Sunrise, Florida, Metro Miami, Raleigh, North Carolina with the Canes. They used to have attendance issues. They were given the opportunity to recover because they were shown to be good markets. Atlanta was never given that opportunity at any point. And the hockey world doesn't care no matter how much. That's why I particularly don't care when expansion hits. I don't want to have patience, and I don't want to listen to other people. Because can you blame the NHL for coming back here? First of all, people will cite the Atlanta Flames as a reason that they shouldn't come back. The Atlanta Flames arrived here in 1972. I've given a list of inventions that are older than the Atlanta Flames. I believe McDonald's did not debut chicken nuggets on their menu until 1980 when the Flames had left, or like 82. I'm gonna actually put the inventions back on the screen. I don't think the Rubik's Cube was invented. I don't think the World Wide Web was invented. There were so many facets of life today. It's actually ridiculous. I don't think the first cell phone was out. But people will use the Atlanta Flames when Atlanta, the metro population, had barely, if at all, clipped 1 million people, and now today sits at 6.2. They will use the Atlanta Flames as a reason as to why Atlanta should not get a pro hockey team. There were colored fountains still up in this country in 1972 when the Flames got here. Name me one facet of this country that has remained the same since the 70s. But that is a measurement for why this city shouldn't get another hockey team. Stop using that. That is off the heels of the Vietnam War. What bearing does that have on today? And if it comes to Atlanta being the only city that has failed twice in having an NHL team, you are sadly mistaken, because there is another city that has had 2 NHL opportunities and they've been moved. They're actually across the northern border in Quebec City. You must have forgotten about the Bulldogs. You'll tell me that that doesn't count because it was over 100 years ago. But you get to say that that doesn't count because that was so long ago. But something that was barely off, was right around the time when color TV's debuting, the Flames get to count. You get to count that from 50 years ago. It's like there's no consistency in the argument. This is a city that hosts 4 major pro sports and an assortment of other things. Pro lacrosse, women's basketball, women's volleyball, but you think FIFA World Cup host in 2026, Copa America next year, Olympics in 96, Super Bowl, Wrestle Frickin' Mania. I was in the building in the dome for WrestleMania 27. Me and all my homies were. We was little boys. I'm going to do it again if they ever come back as a grown man to the bins. And you think that the one thing that Atlanta can't support is the NHL? You really think after all this time, when you could have done all this research, multiple people have told you, multiple people with a platform have told you why the NHL isn't in this city anymore, and why specifically more recent the Thrashers are not here. At this point, it is a choice not to listen. So I hope the NHL makes the choice not to listen to anybody who objects. Because this was not on this city. There is a team playing in a college rink right now when the Thrashers had people protesting outside of their building to keep the team. But no one cared. But then y'all want me to care about your complaints. And I already know people from Canada especially, but people from up north in general are probably not listening this deep into the podcast because they're good at just, covering their ears and being like, la 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 la. They don't want to listen. But the future of expansion is coming. Multiple people have detailed that to you. When Gary Bettman has talked about, we've been getting a lot of interest from places like Atlanta, Salt Lake City, Houston. I understand. 32 teams. Oh my God, that's a lot already. We're doing fine. 32 teams is a lot. I get it. Going beyond that, you would have to go to 34 because they're not just going to go to 33. You would have to go to 34. And it would be more logical to go to 36. Alarming to some people. I get it. Alarming. But if you go to 36, and especially geographically where the rumors have lined up, it was almost like they knew they were going to do this all along. Because you would have Salt Lake City go into the Pacific, Houston go into the Central, Atlanta go into the Metropolitan, which I don't know why Atlanta is not going into the Atlantic, but Canadian teams, I get it. I do get it to a degree, but it's awkward. And let's say Quebec City into the Atlantic. If Quebec City doesn't get it, not Kansas City. Kansas City probably will they'll have to stay in the West if they get a team, but Cincinnati. 9-9-9-9. And people will say, the NHL would never do that. I know some people may not support expansion, but I'm going to tell you right now, the NHL, I don't know if you've noticed, is the only city with 2 teams that are not in the top 10 markets, with 2 cities that they've neglected from the top 10 markets in the United States. The MLS has teams in Houston and Atlanta. The NFL, the MLB, the NBA, the one that doesn't have teams in both of them? We're talking about it today. It's inexcusable because of their lack of patience in screwing over one city and their neglect of another. They're big TV markets. Remember when I told you that it's just business? It kind of is more than just business. But you don't think the NHL looks at that and is like, damn, we're kind of behind everyone else. The MLS has the Dynamo and Atlanta United doing fine in those cities, but the NHL's not even in them. In addition to that, the NHL flexed going to Vegas first. People thought they were crazy, and look at the Golden Knights, one of the biggest brands, one of the hottest brands in sports, and a model for success. Then NFL's rushing to get the Raiders in Vegas. NFL considering going to Vegas. NBA considering going to Vegas. They should have been there. I told them to go first when I was a kid. Now they're going to be dead last. MLS is considering going there. MLB, Athletics going there. Maybe still. If not, they're going to expand there. Now everybody trying to copy the NHL. You don't think the NHL is going to take the opportunity to flex the fact that they went to 36 teams first and had success? And honestly, they have the most space to do it. The NFL is not going to cities like Edmonton. The NBA is not going to Calgary. But the NHL thrives in markets like that. They have the space to do something like this. I just spit, and I hope no one saw that on camera. If you're listening, just ignore what I'm saying right there. They can go to 36 teams. And at what we're hearing, the expansion fee of $1 billion each, do you know what the NHL lost during the pandemic? They've gotten it back. They're doing great right now. But you think the NHL and their owners are going to turn down $4 billion, $1 billion each from those franchises? Oh, come on now. You must not know rich people. I'm just being real. The last factor that people haven't considered is the NHLPA. The NHLPA is going to support the increase of jobs. So if you thought that the players were going to vote against this, when you would have that influx of jobs for players, for coaches, for managers in the game of hockey, that's another domino going against you if you don't support this. This is why people say it's inevitable. And when it comes to expansion in this city, you can kick and scream. I don't know why. It's always interesting to me when people call themselves hockey fans, but were cool with what transpired with the Atlanta Spirit ownership group and how they screwed over the Thrashers and sold this city out. I want you to see how people at times from Quebec City or Halifax or Hamilton, Saskatoon, cities that, no offense, but y'all aren't getting teams anyway. Maybe Quebec City, but those other three, I'm just being real. But even the markets that do have teams, I hear it from people in Edmonton, in Toronto. These are people that call themselves real hockey fans, but they were cool with a group of hockey fans down here in Atlanta getting screwed out of a team. Never having even decent on-ice performance. Having an ownership group that neglected the team, barely marketed them, put all their funds into the NBA team and said, screw the hockey team. And not only will we not do our due diligence to find an owner that will try to keep them here, ship them. We don't care. But these people will call themselves hockey fans, but you were cool with a group of hockey fans down here getting screwed out of a franchise. Sure, some people think I'm lying, but I always come with receipts, and they're on your screen visually. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can go to my TikTok and see it. I don't lie. I have a journalism degree. I work in sports already, and I will continue to. Even when I'm wearing different hats as an entrepreneur and the other things that y'all will see me do throughout my life, if you're along for this journey. I'm heavily involved in sports. I didn't get my journalism degree by not doing my due diligence and upholding a standard of credibility. I don't get up here to lie. Because even before I'm an Atlanta hockey fan, an Atlanta hockey boy, I am a hockey fan. That is the root of that identification. I don't get anything out of lying. I'm going to tell it how it is. I'm also not going to let people get away with a lie. Frank Saravalli type beat. But that brings me to expansion. I guess we've been talking about that though. When it comes to the city of Atlanta making a play at their third team. Man, we've never seen this before in sports. Oh, wait, we have. We actually have. Washington, D.C., this nation's capital. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. You know the MLB went there twice prior to relocating the Montreal Expos to D.C. as the new Washington Nationals. That's not even the first Washington Nationals. This is the second iteration of that team. I think they also had, I don't want to say the Generals. They had another team, though, in Washington. I remember what it was. Ooh, I literally covered this. Ooh, the Senators, not the Generals. There was the original Nationals, then there were the Senators, and then they struck gold with the Nationals. So the NHL would not be the first league to do this. Oh, wait, they wouldn't even be the second. Did you know that the city of Chicago had 2 strikes before striking gold with the Bulls? The Zephyrs, the American Gears, which is a terrible name, and then the Bulls. Look at how that went. So the NHL would not even be the third. Oh, wait. The NFL's done this. The original Rams relocated to St. Louis before returning. And what is now the Las Vegas Raiders, but were the Oakland Raiders. They moved from LA to go to Oakland. The LA's third NFL team was the return of the Rams again. That was their third crack. The NHL would not only be they would not be the first, they would not be the second or the third pro sports league to return to a major market. And I promise you, third time's a charm is not some goofy meme you see that people are clowning Atlanta with. Third time's a charm has worked in American pro sports. It will happen again. This time with Atlanta. When it comes to expansion, I know people are getting hot about it, getting excited about the return of Blueland to Atlanta. And yes, they will be called the Thrashers. They would be stupid not to do that. We'll talk about that in another episode and why I believe they will be called the Thrashers. But you look at a building that is garnering a lot of attention in hockey headlines, I guess really around the continent, but especially in this area, located out there in Alpharetta. The smidge of Alpharetta that stretches into South Forsyth. And it's the Gathering at South Forsyth. A $2 billion arena development. With hopes, high hopes, and I would tell you high probability of bringing the NHL back to the A-Town. A lot of people are skeptical of it, but before you get skeptical of it or think that this is just a rumor of a pipe dream, the arena's already been approved by the Forsyth, Board of Commissioners. The executives, they've already approved it. If it lands an NHL team, they'll put $400 million of funding into it. This team is brought to you by a number of major project collaborators, including the team behind the Battery here in Atlanta at Truist Park, home of the Atlanta Braves. A model of success when it comes to sports venues and neighboring arenas around them. Living hubs and entertainment, dining, shopping hubs around sports venues. They're looking to make a sequel here in Atlanta. This time for an NHL team. Of course, you're thinking, oh, well, that doesn't mean anything. Well, a number of major project collaborator and somebody who's contributing to making sure that this arena and the gathering at Forsyth as a whole comes to pass is Stafford Sports. Those unfamiliar with their resume, I believe they did the rink renovation at Madison Square Garden for the New York Rangers. That's one of the most popular venues on earth and one of the biggest ones in the NHL. They also did Bridgestone Arena in Nashville for the Nashville Predators, one of the prominent markets in the South when it comes to hockey. And most recently, they did the arena and the renovation for Climate Pledge Arena, home of the most recent expansion team, the Seattle Kraken. Now, why would someone like that join aboard a project like this? Still think it's just a rumor? I'm just trying to brace y'all. They're not putting all this money into a project like this and getting collaborators on a project like this and reaching out to the NHL, which Gary Bettman has confirmed, and he's been in discussions with Atlanta in the past. The past 10 months, the last 11 months since these rumors have really come out. They're not doing this over just a rumor. And if we have to get into a bidding war, Bill Daley talked about, the last two shortcomings in Atlanta doesn't preclude a return to the city. Loved when he said that, and he had a reason to say that. One thing he brought up was businesses. Again, I told you that it's not just business. It is about showing that Atlanta's a great hockey fan base, has a great hockey fan base, and will be a great market for this sport. Yet again, but Bill Daley brought up the businesses. The market's changed a lot since we just last left there. Atlanta's metro population has almost doubled since they left. But when it comes to businesses, Atlanta brings not just the television markets, but I don't know if you've noticed, but Atlanta is home to the NHL on TNT. Turner Broadcasting. And if anybody wants to get into a bidding war and you're upset about Atlanta even having the audacity to make a play, or the NHL having the audacity to even think about returning to Atlanta, if anybody wants to go ban for ban and bag for bag and get into a bidding war with the ATL, bring your corporate sponsors and we'll bring ours. Delta, Coca-Cola, Home Depot, UPS. We got many more than just that. Chick-fil-A. And we will go ban for ban. Somebody gonna run out of money first. I promise you it will not be us. Just trying to brace you for that. Well, we gonna show y'all something. Expansion. It's on the horizon, but it's like in the distance. It's in the distance. It's not gonna be tomorrow. They're not going to announce this tomorrow. If they announce this tomorrow, that's going to be crazy. This is going to go viral as a clip on TikTok if they announce this tomorrow. I just want to make that clear. If they're not going to announce this tomorrow. They probably will not announce it next week or next month, but it is coming. And you need to get it out of your mind right now. And I'm going to talk about this in future episodes. And I'm going to talk about this in a more succinct manner because this podcast is running long already. But I'm not re-recording this. I want this to be raw. I want this to be a raw discussion because this is like when I sit around the table and I talk hoops or football or hockey with my boys. Like, I want this to be very candid. I'll get into the high production stuff later down the road, but we chilling and talking hockey here. But I want you to get it in your mind right now that I used to think, if you're one of those people, I used to think it was the people of Atlanta's fault, but I don't think it is. And if I didn't convince you of that here today, we got a very special date coming up here in Atlanta, March 2nd. The return of the Thrashers. To a degree. On March 2nd at Gas South Arena, the Atlanta Gladiators, our hockey team right now of the ECHL, will be taking on the Greenville Swamp Rabbits live at Gas South Arena up in Gwinnett County at Duluth, right across the street from the former Thrashers practice facility. Really a second home to me. The Duluth Ice Forum. And the Gladiators will be taking the ice on March 2nd. In full attire. We've got to see what jerseys they're going to wear. But in full attire, as the reincarnation of the Atlanta Thrashers, Thrash will be back in the building. You will see a sea of Blueland jerseys and the return of Blueland in that building. And this event coming up is very important for me because the last Thrashers night that happened was at the end of 2022. And since then, Atlanta's reemerged as a city that can be a part of expansion rumors. And people were like, Atlanta? And then the arena came out. They were like, oh, well, it's just a rumor. And then Bettman and Daly confirmed that Atlanta had reached out. And it was like, uh-oh. And now the arena has been confirmed. All of that happened since the last Thrashers night that the Atlanta Gladiators held. This one, I believe, in a sold-out building, will kick the door down as this city offers a showcase of why the NHL should have never left, and when they get back here, why they will never leave again. I promise you. March 2nd. And if you in the ATL listen to this, you better mark your calendar. And if you need me to hook you up with tickets, you better tap in with Eris's Blueland Pass. That's a shameless plug, but I'm plugging this because it's on behalf of me and the Atlanta Gladiators. I'm doing a ticket deal where for $25, you can get a seat in any one of my sections to be in attendance for what will be a historic night in Atlanta hockey history. Let me hook you up. The link is in my bio, on my Instagram, on my TikTok. Just click. You've got tickets. You're ready to go. $25? Buddy, you probably got some subscriptions that are running longer than that. But a one-time fee can have you kick the door down and show the NHL, show the naysayers, and party with us, but show everyone that you thought this wasn't a hockey city. You shouldn't have put your foot in your mouth. We got a lot more to talk about expansion, buddy, but this podcast is running long. But if you thought this discussion was over, or if you're upset about it, you might want to find a new sport to follow. Because if you piss now, you don't know the definition of being pissed off. And that's live from Blueland. That should have been the outro. I shouldn't have said that right then. I should have made that the outro. But I want to talk about some topics from around the league, kind of briefly, so we can go ahead and wrap the podcast up, because this is the Live from Blueland podcast. But we talk about all things hockey, and We are past the All-Star break. We are 2-3 weeks out from the trade deadline. This is the road. You know, WWE talks about the road to WrestleMania. This is the road to the Stanley Cup playoffs. You know, we coming down that stretch, man, and it's a fast track. So we got a number of things. Let me just make sure I'm talking about everything that I want to talk about here. Let's get into it. So the first topic I want to talk about is something that actually took place a week ago today and has been dominating hockey headlines around the NHL. Morgan Reilly, buddy, what an eventful week for you. Ridley Gregg, what an eventful week for you as well. This has been dominating hockey headlines. I made a TikTok on this, and know some people, I told y'all we're going to talk about it more on the podcast, and here we are. Last week in the Battle of Ontario between the Senators and the Leafs, live from Ottawa, Ridley Gregg took it upon himself. I know you've seen it, but I'm just recapping it, to score an empty netter. Nothing wrong with that. And seal the deal in a 5-3 win for the Senators. But the manner in which he did it, he was trying to make a little bit of a statement. I didn't even notice it when he did it, but he was trying to make a little bit of a statement with a slap shot, a clapper, what I like to call a hockey dunk into an empty net, which was not well received by the Maple Leafs, but specifically Morgan Reilly, who was the first trailing player behind him. He hunted down Ridley Gregg, and instead of dropping his gloves and fighting him for it or checking him if he felt some type of way, what he did was take it upon himself. And people be like, oh, he hit him in the shoulder first. He cross-checked that man in the face. He cross-checked that man in his face. And as a result, Morgan Reilly, I believe on Tuesday, was suspended. I think he even had an in-person hearing, but was suspended for 5 games. He will appeal it, according to numerous sources. You serving him 5 games, player. And just to expand on what I had to say about this, it's like I said on TikTok. If you cross-check somebody in the face, you're getting suspended. Are you shocked by this? It's like jumping into water and you thought you was gonna stay dry. Like you jumped into a pool. Of course you're gonna be wet. If you cross-check someone in the face, you're getting suspended. So like the fact that like Reilly was like just so shocked by that and like so distraught by that is really interesting to me. I thought it was such a cheap move. If you want to fight him, if you want to check him for what he did, all right, I'm cool with that. This is hockey. This ain't ballet. And it certainly wasn't a play day. It's personal. And that's what I said about Gregg doing that slap shot. Like, he wasn't trying to make friends with y'all. Trying to put a little bit of emphasis on it. And from what I've heard, the Senators have beat the Leafs 3 times this year. Now, the Leafs are in a wild card position currently with a man that's going to win the Rocket Richard. I'm about to talk about him soon. Y'all should have put this team away. You've got energy, Morgan Reilly, to do this really after after your fate is sealed in this game, after the outcome is sealed. But what you didn't have time to do, or what you didn't have energy to do, was show that same level of passion to get in front of this game and bury the Senators team, which is one of the worst in the NHL. And Ottawa, that's not me throwing no shade on y'all, but y'all suck. And you know that. And on paper, y'all shouldn't be as bad as y'all are. Aquafina. But Morgan Reilly, I don't know how you can appeal it, but I don't think, Mark Johnston, I think, reported yesterday or early this morning that you may not see him serve the full 5 games. You serving him full 5 games. Maybe I'm wrong. I'll come back to this if I'm wrong, but you serving him full 5 games. It was a cross check to the face. It's very unsafe. And there's other manners, and you know it, that we go about checking people in hockey. And if it's an issue and it's smoke, shoot the fade with them. Fight him. I'm not all for sucker punches, but even a punch would have been better than that. But a cross check to the face, you knew it was coming. And the fact that there are Leafs fans arguing that, if anybody breathes on a Toronto Maple Leafs player, the Leafs want the entire NHL to shut down in like a moment, a day of remembrance, a moment of silence for a tragedy that's taken place. And if this happened to one of their guys, I'm telling you, we would have to cancel the rest of the season. They would riot. But somehow they can't see how egregious this was. But I'll tell you what you also can't see Morgan Reilly for the next 5 games because he's serving that suspension, and that's just too bad. You can appeal it, but he's going to serve all of that. Can we stop talking about this after today, too? It's been a week now. He's suspended. It's over. But I did have to touch on this on the podcast, and I knew when he did it that I was going to touch on it on the podcast, and that's just my thoughts on it. So we'll move past this, but you cross-check somebody in the face, buddy, you're getting suspended. We're going to keep it in Canada, but we're going to talk about a man who's the best player in this sport. Boy, Connor McDavid. I don't even know what else we can say. It's almost like it's like the same thing you say about Nikola Jokic in the NBA. It's what you say about Shohei Ohtani in the MLB. It's like I don't even know what I'm running out of adjectives. I want to talk about some of the performances of the week. And Connor McDavid, boy, I'm talking about dimes. I'm talking about like Playboy Mansion level dimes. I'm talking about Bootine LA level dimes. I'm talking about rap music video dimes. Loose change dimes. 8-4 win over Detroit a couple days ago. 6 assists. That's one of my performances of the week. Connor McDavid, are you serious? Hamburger helper for everyone on the ice. They put up a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. Ooh, Red Wings, I got y'all going to the playoffs. I'm very happy with y'all performance this year, but boy, that's kind of ugly. I think that was in Detroit too. I don't feel like looking it up right now and taking y'all's time with me Google searching. Great job, journalist. Do that work before, buddy. It's my first podcast episode, guys. Give me a break. But, and it's one that's run over double the time in which I said I was going to do. They will be 25, 30 minutes from now on. The only reason I have solace with this is because we'll call this the Live from Blueland pilot episode special. So it's the one that's an hour long, and I'll do hour long episodes in the future too, but they will be 25, 30 minutes from now on. I should have ate before this too. And also I got to go to work, buddy. I have a job. But yeah, that's one of my performances of the week. He had 6 assists in that game. Probably the next best player in this sport. I'm going back to Toronto, but Leafs fans, calm down. Y'all probably hate me after this podcast, and that's cool. I don't care about being hated by y'all. But you know who I don't hate? Auston Matthews. He's stellar. It's actually unbelievable. I gotta save my talk about somebody else because I'm about to talk to him about after this. This is somebody who also, we gotta have the discussion in 12 years. Can he break the all-time goal scoring record? Oh my God. Auston Matthews, 5th hat trick of the year. 4-3 win over the Flyers a couple days ago. A couple days ago in a win. He is on pace currently for 70. Y'all remember, there's like a Batman animated series. I'm not going to be able to put the soundbite on here because I don't want no copyright issues. But I think it's like the Riddler is in jail. I forget who's in jail. But Batman arrested him, and it's like the Batman animated series. And he's just like, somebody tell me how he did it. I can put it on TikTok, but I'm not going to be able to put it on the podcast. So he's like, somebody tell me how he did it. There's no way. This is what I feel about Auston Matthews. Somebody tell me how he did it, bruh. How is he doing this? He's just filling up the net. But this next man has made a career out of filling up the net. Alex Ovechkin, oh man, he was slow all year long. This is a man that we've had the Gretzky watch on. What is it, 894? We've been watching Ovechkin for years. And, you know, I grew up and was of the mindset looking at Gretzky's records. I was like, ain't nobody going to break any of them. Any of them. No one's going to break one of them. And I looked at his goal scoring record too, and I was like, no one's gonna break that. Alex Ovechkin, I have to remind myself of this every day. Alex Ovechkin has the chance to break Wayne Gretzky's goal scoring record. Do y'all understand how insane that is? He started slow. It was a drought. Oh my goodness. And I was like, he slowed down. This is the year that he slowed down. We don't need this. Because this is as close as almost anybody will get. But Alex Ovechkin is not done yet. Goals in 6 straight, and today they play the Montreal Canadiens. They're playing the Habs. He's going for goals in 7 straight. He's heated back up. He's Human Torch level hot. Get a fire extinguisher on him. He's got goals in 6 straight. And the Caps over this stretch. They can't stop. I'm sorry. I read a note incorrectly. I was going off a note. They can't stop losing. I gotcha with that, didn't I? They are 1-3-2 over this stretch that Ovi has scored a goal in every single game. It started on the 27th, January 27th, against the Dallas Stars. He scored in every single game since then. He's gone for 7 straight tonight. Their only win in that stretch was against the Bruins. That's the one team they beat. Now, they had some tough teams to beat, tough teams to play. They lost to the Stars in OT. They had to play the Canucks in there. Y'all, they played good teams. They played almost... I'm not going to say they played all the top teams. They played good teams, though. That was just... It really was hell. It really was hell. But Ovi has heated back up, and in his recent performance, getting another goal. One of my performers of the week. He is hot right now. He's back to the old Ovi. Oh man, it's like Slim Shady's back. It's like Shady's back. Tell a friend, bro. For real. We'll see what he does tonight against the Canadians. I want him to just keep this goal streak going so I can talk about it next week on the podcast again. So I can just talk about it next week. Hope you return for that. And then Connor Bedard, he's back, baby. Who's your badaddy? You already know what I'm going to say. Who's your badaddy? Connor Bedard made hockey great again. I'm not going to glaze, but Connor Bedard is back, and then he came back and he got a point immediately. He's got to still be the favorite for the Calder. I felt like somebody could have gotten in front of him. Like, that was y'all's time. Everybody who's up there for the Calder, that was kind of your chance to strike. And I just don't feel like there was enough of a strike. So Connor McDavid, he might as well win the Calder. We should just give everything to Connor McDavid. Give him the Vezina. Give him the Norris. But Connor Bedard. There's so many Connors in this sport. And what's crazy is they all might win award. We might have a Connor. Connor Hellebuyck wins the Vezina. Connor Bedard wins the Calder. Connor McDavid wins the Hart. We got to put a Connor limit on the NHL. I'm not going to lie. But Connor Bedard was back. He made a return against the Pittsburgh Penguins, had an assist. And the Blackhawks, thankfully, in Bedard's return, and this is the Bedard effect, baby, they lost again. I misled you again. They did lose. They lost. But I'm not blaming that on Bedard. I'm not going to put this on a 18, 19-year-old to carry the city of Chicago. No, sir. That roster sucks. Some of my performers of the week and some of the big things that happened around the league. Another big thing happened around the league to close out the weekend. Big games today and tomorrow. Baby, it's a stadium series. I love outdoor games. I've never been to one. I've played in one. Down here in Atlanta, we had one when I played with the Fire my U18 year. And I barely was U18. I was 16 playing U18. But I played. I turned 17 kind of deep into the season. But we played in the Outdoor Classic. It was in... Damn, where was it? It was in Athens. Yeah. So, we played in an Outdoor Classic series in Athens. So I've played in an outdoor game before down here in Atlanta. It worked out in here in Atlanta. Maybe we get a little Winter Classic going on down here in Atlanta. I'm going to try to predict the future here. Sorry, I'm reading a text. Focus! Oh man, that would be a banger. How about the Atlanta Thrashers after expansion? Do this in 2030 or something, 2028, whatever. Just a couple seasons. I would do it seasons after we've been here, but the Atlanta Thrashers versus the Winnipeg Jets in the Winter Classic, or they could do like a Stadium Series Classic, and they could do it at Truist Park. Or what if they did it at the Bins and open the? If you're watching this on YouTube, you will see how animated I am. I'm cooking right now. But, you need a team for that, buddy. But we can talk about that. We will talk about that soon. But Stadium Series tonight, we got the Battle of New York. We got the Islanders and the Rangers. Oh, wait. I think that's tomorrow. I think today is the Flyers versus the Devils. I was thinking about going live on TikTok for the first time while the game was going on, and then we just chill in there. You leave me on the background while you're watching it with the family, watching it with the boys. Or you just tune in and watch it with me. I wasn't going to show the game on the screen. I like having my page not deleted, but, I was going to film my reactions to the game. Sorry, I'm not going to do that. I'm busy tomorrow, and then today, I'm busy today. I'm a busy guy. I'm not going to lie. I'm not even trying to flex, but I am very busy. I'm probably going to be working, and if I'm not working, I'm going to be chilling. So, but I will have the game on in the background, so I'll be tuning in. I love outdoor games, dude. I've never been in attendance at one. I've played in one, but I've never been in attendance at a stadium level outdoor game. Oh, bruh. But the thing about it is, I'm always shocked that people love to go to these. I'm so happy they do, because like people can never really talk crazy to the NHL. If the NHL, the fourth major sport in this country, can sell out football stadiums and baseball parks, what you gonna say? That is not a major sport. They selling out the same venues as y'all, and you can't even really see the game like that. Because it's not built for stadiums at all. It's like when they play basketball. It's the same thing when they do basketball. It's not built for stadiums. Basketball looks terrible in stadiums because the playing surfaces are small. That's why they're in arenas and not stadiums. But I'm always shocked when people like to go to those because the sight lines are terrible. You know, I hear from people, and I got, shout out to Mama Blueland. Shout out to my mom. I'm sure my mom will listen to the podcast. What's up, Mama? But my mom's a hockey mom, and when I was playing goalie, boy, we had to train my mom to follow the puck. It's a struggle to this day. I'm not capping to y'all. It's a struggle to this day. My mom was just talking to me the other day. Was like, I'm still trying to follow the puck. My mom, bruh, she's still struggling with following the puck. I just got a new T-shirt in the mail. I'm sorry. A lot of notifications on my phone. I'm a busy guy. But I'm always shocked that you guys like going to Stadium Series games, and it's so hot in this house. This podcast is falling off the rails. Let's go off the air. We gotta put an end to this. But I'm always shocked that people do like going to the outdoor games, the Winter Classic, the Heritage Classic, because the sightlines are terrible. It's about the experience. I love this year's Winter Classic. The Kraken had the hardest walkout ever. Like, that stuff is so awesome, and they're always going to do well because they're rare, and they're always going to do well. But I'm always shocked when people like to go because you can't really see the game like that. So people who can't follow the puck normally, I'm sure you got some friends who probably don't watch hockey, and they're like, oh man, I can't really follow the puck. It's so fast. I'm sure us watching Stadium Series games, if you're in attendance, that's probably what they feel like watching it normally, which I don't understand how you can't follow it. Like, it's black on a white surface, and in addition to that, it is fast. And I'm not going to say that we as hockey fans don't lose the puck, but it's like you can read people's body language and see where it is. Like, the goalie's facing over there. The whole defense is chasing one guy with the puck. Like, why do you not know where the puck is right now? I'm like, bro, how do you not know where the puck is? But anyway, it's like people can follow the golf ball in golf, hit hundreds of yards, but you can't follow. I'll be like, okay. That's a choice. But Stadium Series going on tonight, so that's another big thing going around in the NHL. And we got a lot more to talk about next week. The league's always moving. I tell y'all all the time. We're going to have a lot more things to talk about next week. We'll see how things develop. You never know how things are going to change in the NHL and the world of hockey. But we're going to be right back here next week on the Live from Blueland podcast. I wonder if I should address my city or address everyone. But I just want to say, you seeing right before you or hearing before you someone who is passionate about hockey in this city. This is my hometown. I'm passionate about sports down here. If y'all had me, I thought about making an Atlanta sports page, but I'm not qualified because I don't like the Falcons. I do root for y'all's success, but I don't like the Falcons. I'm a Raven. I want the Falcons to win a Super Bowl, but I also particularly don't care. I'm sorry. I didn't grow up with y'all like that, so sorry. So I wouldn't be qualified to do that. But boy, I'm passionate about the Hawks, and they suck. I'm passionate about the Braves. We have a recent World Series, so you can only complain so much. But they are currently the property of the Philadelphia Phillies, and they are on their leash. And they got a shot collar on, and they got to do everything that the Phillies tell them to do, because that's their daddy right now. Sorry. I'm sick of the Braves right now. United, y'all are okay. I feel like we should have gone deeper in the playoffs last year, but we lost to the eventual champions, which is what all Atlanta teams do. Atlanta teams always lose to the eventual champion. The Hawks to the Bucks a couple years ago when they did that deep playoff run, or they always lose to the team that just goes to the final. Hawks to the Heat. A couple years ago, the Braves to the Phillies. They went to the World Series. United lost to the Columbus Crew. They went. United also lost to NYCFC a couple years ago. They went and won it all. The Falcons blowing the Super Bowl. I know y'all didn't want me to bring that up, but people are going to bring that up forever. But I'm an example of what it looks like when you invest in hockey down here. And And I'm telling you right now, if you're a fan of Atlanta hockey, or even if you're not and you oppose this, I'm telling you, it's inevitable. And something is coming. The Atlanta Thrashers, boy, I'm used to being a fan of bird teams. But there's something very, which I thought was universally known about birds, but apparently is not. There's something you will learn about birds. And it's that when it gets cold, they always fly back down south. Y'all like that? That's how I'm going to end the podcast, baby. This is the Live from Blueland podcast, man. I'm going to check back in with y'all next week. We got a lot more to talk about. Tune in on TikTok, Blueland Eris, ERRIS, just how it's just written on this podcast. I'm going to be talking about hockey throughout the week, buddy. But other than that, that's the end of episode 1, which ran over, 3-4 times as long as what I wanted it to. But what are you going to do? Next week, it will be 25 to 30 minutes. Hope you enjoyed this little treat. Going to get something to eat. See you next week.